Welcome to Sound Leadership with DJ, the podcast that dives into the fascinating world of leadership. I'm your host, DJ, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today. Our guest is an exceptional leader with an impressive track record in the healthcare industry. Today, we have the honor of sitting down with Michael Hotz, licensed nursing home administrator, certified dementia practitioner, health service executive, certified nursing home administrator, and also a fellow with the American College of Healthcare Association administrators. With over 40 years of experience as a licensed nursing home administrator in multiple states, Michael has an extensive knowledge and experience. His dedication and expertise have not gone unnoticed, as he has been recognized with several awards during his career. Michael's leadership journey is nothing short of remarkable. He has served as the chapter president for the ACHCA in both New Jersey and New York, and later as a national chairman. Additionally, he has chaired the National Mentorship Program for 5 years and was a catalyst for the AIT Preceptor Program for the National Association of Long-Term Care Administrators Boards and ACHCA. But Michael's impact extends beyond his professional achievements. See, he has taken on the moderator's role in the Facebook Administrators Forum, which boasts an impressive community of over 6,000 members. His passion lies in making a difference, not only in the facilities that he serves, but also in the profession. From Michael's humble beginnings to his current position, we uncover the unique paths he took to achieve success. We explore his triumphs, his challenges, and his pivotal lessons along the way. So whether you're a seasoned leader looking to refine your skills or just embarking on your leadership journey, Sound Leadership with DJ offers something for everyone. So let's prepare to be inspired, motivated, and empowered to be our best selves. Welcome, Michael. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, DJ, and I'm really thrilled and honored that you've asked me to participate in your series.
Hey, when I looked at your credentials, I said, "Hey, I got to get them on." Right? So I did an introduction, but it did you no justice, right? I butchered it. You have so many credentials, so I'd like you to tell us, who's Michael?
Well, I'm somebody who really likes to make a difference. I feel we're all obligated to make the world a better place. In the Jewish religion, we call that tikkun olam, repairing the world. And I think I have to do that as an administrator, as a member of the administrator community. And frankly, even when I take the suit off and I'm not an administrator, we really need to make the world a better place for everybody.
So how long have you been an administrator?
I first got my license, I can't believe this, 40 years ago this summer.
Wow.
I started with a Connecticut license and then wound up getting New York and New Jersey at the same time. And whoever knew I'd be practicing in all three states. Wow.
So you mentioned you started 40 years ago. How has the field of administration changed from then to now, right? How has that happened?
Well, the field has evolved. As frankly, everything in the world has evolved. Things just do not stay the same. And our residents' characteristics have evolved from being healthier people to being sicker people. We have more complex cases. We have younger residents. We now have people who are drug seekers and fighting with rehabilitation goals, not just physical rehabilitation, but addictive rehabilitation. We have a lot more behavioral residents. And so the whole field has changed from that sweet little old lady in the rocking chair that I used to sit down and talk to back in the 80s when I was a younger man.
Wow. So as we dive deeper into this conversation, right, I'm fascinated, right? Because like you said, 40 years ago to now, and you talk about the characteristics of the resident now, right? It has changed over time. How has technology impacted that for the betterment or for the worse? Right? How has technology impacted that?
I'd have to say yes, both. It's both better and worse. I mean, for the sake of my clinical staff, having an electronic clinical record, medical record, really enhances their ability to do things, but not being on the cutting edge of technology. Personally, I can't say that's benefited me, but it's benefited my residents, my staff, and my facilities. I think the communication among administrators has changed with modern technology. You would never have had My former protege in the mentor program, Svi Barracks' Administrators Forum on Facebook, which has 6,700 administrators across the country. And when you read what they write, and I know you do too, you can hear some of the fear, the alienation, the concerns. How do you keep up? How do you do this? How do you do that? And in the old days, we had to do in-person networking, which is why I always felt in-person education is much more critical than doing it online. We're a business about people. So the best way to learn about our business is to learn it from people.
Wow, that's a different take on it. So how did you dive into leadership? Right, you've been in it for 40 years, but what made you go into leadership? What made you go down the path to become an administrator?
My story is probably rather different than most that you hear. I was in law school. I was in my second year.
Wow.
I hated it. I hated the first year too. But I found it to be rather unconscionable what they were teaching me to do to people on behalf of my clients. And for those who are almost as old as me, they would understand when I say at a paper chase moment, when in class I said, I can't believe you're teaching us. This is fundamentally unfair. And the professor boomed from the front of the class in front of an audience of 300. Mr. Hotz, the law is not about fairness. It's justice under the laws as they're written. And if that's an issue for you, you should find something else to do for a living. So I went down to the University Counseling and Testing Center and took a test that showed how I would do as opposed to people who love what they do for a living. A nursing home administrator blew right off the scale. And I said, that's crazy. Who would do that? That sounds nuts. And they go, this test says you will like it. We suggest you try it before you write it off. And here I am 40 years later, and I'm still kind of digging it, although I'm looking forward to hanging it up and getting retired.
Wow. Yeah. So that's, like you said, a very interesting journey. I haven't heard that one. Someone who's in law school, who's pursuing another passion or another career, realized that, hey, this career is not for me. And then you took the aptitude test and it determined that, hey, this is something that you may be into.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I'm sure you've had some successes as a leader. So can we talk about some of your biggest successes as a leader?
Well, yeah, I've had quite a lot of diversity, and I've made a reputation as being kind of like a hired gun, that I have no fear of what I walk into. So I've walked into some incredibly troubled buildings and gotten them out of trouble by motivating the team, by working with the team, by being a leader. And a lot of people confuse leadership with management, and they don't know that they're actually managing instead of leading. And leading is getting your staff to bring out the best in them to accomplish goals because they want to. Not because you're standing there with the stick, but because the carrot is you will feel fulfilled when you turn this place around with me and with this team and moving people forward.
I think you said something important, right? There's a difference between leadership and management. And when we talk about leadership, what are some of the key qualities you say a leader needs to have to be a successful leader?
Well, let me go back a bit to what I was saying to you before we started, that in administration, there are two basic kinds of administration. There are technical administrators, there are scientists, and there are artists. And in the field of long-term care, I'm the artist, I'm not the scientist. I can't tell you all the regs, I can't tell you all the metrics, I can't tell you all the numbers, but I have been successful in learning from other leaders how to inspire people and bring out the best of them. And that's what leadership is. It's moving the organization in the right direction because people want to, because they feel it's important, and not just that they're in there doing a job.
So how do you motivate the people, right? You go into some troubled buildings, right? And you license in multiple states, right? So I know we talked off camera, right? Harlem and some of the other places. How do you go into these buildings in these urban areas, for lack of a better term, and assimilate to the culture, assimilate to, the residents that we have and inspire them, right? Because a lot of times, right, you going into a building that's maybe turned and burned a few administrators that year. So how do you come in and say, hey, I'm here to stay and we're going to move this train forward and we're going to do it and you're going to feel inspired by doing it. So how do you do that?
Well, it's kind of interesting because as leaders, we are always on stage. And if you watch the news, you see leaders all across the world on the news that are always on stage, and people are always watching us. So you have to walk the walk and inspire confidence in your team. If they don't think you know what you're doing, if they don't have confidence in you, they will never follow you, because we need to get people to want to follow us. We need to encourage them. And so I tell them, I will help you bring out the best you, and that you're going to be doing it for you, not for me. Then I want you to go home feeling good about what you do. I want you to go home feeling you made a difference in other human beings' lives, which is a rare treat that people in our profession can do with the right attitude.
Wow. I think your approach is remarkable, right? Because like I said, you're in these facilities and they've gone through multiple administrators. So what would you say kind of sets your leadership skills apart, right? They call it servant leader, transformational leader. How would you describe your leadership style?
I've had staff call me both of those things over the years, and I've had staff follow me from building to building and state to state sometimes. So, I try to be genuine with my staff. If they feel I'm being genuine, if they feel I'm not full of crap, if they feel I'm not full of errors, or I don't take my title and it doesn't go to my head that I'm just the employee who's got to wear the suit and make the decisions, an employee just like they are, that really helps them want to believe in you, because they've got to believe. If you look back at history, any leader has to be considered legitimate because the people believe they're legitimate. Just look what happened in the United States with the election. Was it real? Was it not real? Did we win? Did we lose? But, when there's no question about it and you've got a leader, somebody like JFK as an example, people are inspired. You've got to have a vision. You've got to communicate your vision. And you need to make sure your staff know they will be a part of accomplishing the vision, that they are the critical aspect. I tell the staff, I never change a patient. I don't cook a meal. I don't provide hands-on care, but I will be there to assist them and get barriers out of the way so they can help provide excellence.
Wow. And it sounds motivational and inspiring. As a leader, right, sometimes it's a struggle to get our message across. So how do you ensure that you're delivering effective communication, right? We have different shifts. We have people who are contingent versus full-time versus part-time. So how do you effectively give that message to everyone and get them on the team?
Well, I walk around and I actually talk to the staff. And while some people prefer those formal town hall meetings, I prefer the informal. I prefer getting to talk to them one-on-one, although, in some buildings I have had to do it in a more formal manner in the beginning. But just by being around, by being observant, by not being, frankly, an incredible nitpicking, difficult leader, but by being genuine, being about training, being about education, being about saying to the staff, I can't hold you accountable for what you don't know. Let me teach you, or get somebody who knows better than me to teach you, and then I'll hold you accountable. But you got to be taught first. I can't expect you to know what you were never taught. And I learned that from my eldest daughter.
Wow. No, that's key, right? Because sometimes leaders go in and they're just, you should know this. But I think it's important to know that even if you were trained one time, you got to continue that training process. Learning is a continuous process. Growth is a continuous process. And as a leader, right, you talk about getting them the right training so they can be successful. Mm-hmm. How have you continued to train, learn, and grow personally?
Well, I've done several things, and a lot of it has come through the American College of Healthcare Administrators, which has given me resources and put me in great places to meet great leaders so I can learn from them. The first thing you got to do to learn is to admit, to be open. You don't know everything, and you're willing to learn. I always stop morning reports when my clinicians speak, because I'm not a clinician, and if I don't understand something, I go, whoa, can you stop a minute and explain that to me? Not because I'm questioning you, because I'd like to understand more what it is you're dealing with and how it works. And by being that vulnerable, that helps inspire people more, and you get to learn more. They say good leaders find a room full of people that are smarter than them and kind of lead them and learn from them. And you've got to be open. You've got to be willing not to be the smartest person in the room, which in my case is an easy thing to do because I'm not the smartest person in the room. But I am smart enough to listen, to ask questions, and ask questions in a very friendly way and not in an inquisitive way, not in a drill down way, but in a, can you explain this to me so I have a better understanding? And actually, while you do that, you improve people's communication skills because they have to communicate better to teach you.
Wow. No, I think what you said is important, right? I always say I can't be the smartest person in the room because we are going down, right? I have to surround myself with people who are smarter than me. And when I say that, a lot of times people say, well, I've never heard a leader say that. And I say, I'm not the smartest one in the room. I think I live your philosophy, right? I don't
Mhm.
necessarily wear suits and things, right? I may wear a button up. I live in Hawaii now, so I wear a low-cut shirt to work. But I'm just the guy, as you stated, kind of with this title, who has to move this ship forward as a team. I
Mhm.
want to move us forward. We talked earlier about you coming into some troubled buildings, right? And how you inspired them to come together as a team. And then you kind of dove into your style of how you like to connect with people, which is not holding these formal meetings, right? So I want to ask you, and this is, the new buzzword, for lack of a better word, how does understanding emotional intelligence help influence you and your leadership style and your connection with others?
It's interesting you say that. I try to be around people who I consider have high emotional intelligence and learn from them. I'm the New York president of the New York chapter of the American College of Healthcare Administrators. My predecessor had extreme emotional intelligence. So when I'm confronted with something that vexes me regarding leading that organization full of CEOs and COOs, I will frequently talk to Keith and I'll go, Keith, what do you think about this? And I will listen to him because while our styles are very different, I tend to be a little more aggressive than him. His style is incredibly effective. And the more I can learn from him, the more effective I'm going to be. Like you said earlier, this is a lifetime of learning. I always tell my interns and anybody I meet, never say you've seen it all because the next day you'll see something new you've never seen before. And you've got to be open to those experiences and open to learning. And frankly, the ideas come from everywhere. I've gotten great ideas from CNAs. And, I started off in high school as a dishwasher. I
Wow.
tell people in orientation, if we didn't need you, you wouldn't be here. You're here because we need each and every one of you, regardless of your title, regardless of your educational
Yeah.
background, regardless of your role. We need
Yes.
you, and I will learn from you.
Wow. Nah, I love your approach to learning from others and not saying I know it all. You talk about tapping into other people, right? So it sounds like you talk about mentorship, right? You're tapping into others, you're learning and growing from others. As a person, and I think your background, you indicated you are a mentor. How do you mentor others, right? You have a mentor, but how do you assist others in this field?
Well, the American College of Healthcare Administrators has developed a formal mentor program, which is academically based. And, not that this will mean much to anybody, we follow the Chip Bell mentor model. But the bottom line is, like, I have a protege right now who's a secret protege. The company doesn't know she's mine. We talk behind the scenes. But the key is to try to get her to come up with the answers by asking the right questions. It's almost the Socratic method. Because when it comes from her, she gets it more. And when she talks through, well, I was thinking this, but maybe this, but maybe this, as I let her flesh it out and discuss it, she really grabs onto it and it helps her learn how to think more like an administrator. And she did it to me last night in our 1 hour session, how much she has grown and how different she now behaves in her building and what a difference it makes.
Wow, I want to try to get this on the screen because I think it's important as well. So let me try to get this on the screen here. It's
And
not
that's my
doing.
Harlem nursing home you see me in.
Wow. So talk us through about this mentorship program.
So the mentorship program was the brainchild, as somebody called it, of Dr. Doug Olson, University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire at the time. And he decided the fellows in the American College, that's the highest accolade, that's the highest credential you could get. So he sat down with a whole bunch of the fellows and said, what do you think we need to teach people to do to make them a successful administrator? And by doing that and following the Chip Bell model, and he actually taught us in our very first class, and we've been doing this, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, we really got to learn how not to just give the advice. We don't give somebody the fish. That's what you do as a preceptor. As a mentor, you teach them to fish. You get them to come up with the answers. And that's a process that you have to be very mindful and not just spit out advice, but say, so what do you think of this? What do you think would happen if you try this? And you try to get them to come up with the answers, and they come out as much stronger administrators. And again, while I have nothing to do with Zvi's creating this administrators forum, he was my protege when it only had 200 members, and now he's got 6,700, and he's asked me to be a moderator. we learn from our proteges the same way they learn from us.
Wow. So you mentioned that you got these fellows in a room. What does it mean to have that honor to you? What does that mean for a person that, you have all these credentials after your name, right? But you have that fellowship there, and for transparency, when I sent Michael his intro, I left off the fellowship, and he very quickly said, "No, that means the world to me. We must add that, and we must chat about that because I earned that distinction. I earned that. I worked for it." So share with the world what that truly means to you.
Well, in order to become a fellow, you must accomplish certain tasks, and there's a point system involved in what you've done in your life. And it includes whether you've been teaching, whether you've been speaking. I remember when I was in my 20s, I was interviewed by a local radio station in Belleville, New Jersey, which people may think of as the town Junior Soprano lived in. But I created a nursing home there on a hospital campus. And, when you do different things, your community involved, it's not just, and a good administrator does not just sit in their office. You got to be integrate with the community in which your facility is in. And that's the sort of thing that you get credit for in order to become a fellow. So I always tell my interns and anybody else who will listen who's in the field, look at that application and see if you're doing the things that would get you points. That's what you should be doing to be the best administrator you could possibly be. And and more people who do those things, the more respected our profession will be, because it is a tough but respectful profession.
I like that. So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe wanting to enter leadership, whether it's being an administrator or not, but wanting to enter leadership? What advice would you have for them?
Well, one of the main things I would say, and again, you mentioned technology, is you got to be where the administrators are. If you want to learn, and that's what I did. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I didn't know diddly squat. And when I trained administrators, I tell you, every administrator you know has a very embarrassing story about their first 2 years. And that's part of why we have the fellowship program for people less than 5 years, because, people blow themselves up or they make a mistake or they give up. But if you've got a mentor to get you through those experiences, you will learn. And boy, I'll tell you, my first week on the job, I was like, I am over my head. What am I doing? I have no business doing this. I actually wrote a letter to I was an assistant administrator in the Bronx, 200 beds. And I wrote a letter to my administrator going, I shouldn't be doing this and I'm not worthy and I don't have it. And she sat me down and said, baloney, I was just as insecure as you when I started. You're going to become just as secure as me as you learn more.
Wow.
We just had this mandatory NHSN report that was due midnight Monday, or else you were going to get huge fines.
Yeah.
And everybody was nervous, and I wasn't nervous, and I couldn't get into the system, and they weren't approving me. And everybody was nervous, and I still wasn't nervous. After you've been through the other thing, how do you get nervous? Yeah. And I very calmly wrote to CMS, and they granted me the waiver because we did, in fact, report the next morning when we got somebody into their complicated system. And when you keep your calm, that is one of the keys to leadership. I once had a director of nursing who would say to the staff, do I look worried? If I'm not worried, you don't need to worry. And what a true statement that was, and I've adopted that from her.
Michael, your leadership journey is remarkable. It is outstanding, and I've learned a lot just from listening to you talk. I know that the viewers will learn a lot from listening to you talk and sharing some of the experiences that you had. As we get ready to wrap this up, is there anything else that you want to say to the viewers, maybe something we didn't cover? I'm just blown away by your experiences that you've had over the course of your 40-year career.
You need to walk around so that you give your staff confidence, but you don't walk around with arrogance. If you're arrogant, the staff will not want to follow you. They'll want to buck you and cause trouble. They need to know you genuinely care, you're genuinely involved. I had staff who took pictures of me clearing off their windshield during snowstorms and posted it on Facebook to go, look at what my boss is doing for me. And part of that is I had a director of nursing previous to that who said to me, don't be like those men sitting at home in front of the fireplace while we're working. You should be out here with us. And so I went out with a shovel and I dug out all my staff so my staff, after working a hard shift, could just get in their car and go. And what a difference that really made to them. Wow. And that's the way you do it. You lead your staff. You be the example. You show them what you want to do. I worked at a place in Newark. The trash in the parking lot was up to my ankles when I started. The staff watched me for months pick up trash every single day to make it look better. And after 3 months, there was no trash to be found in that parking lot. You got to walk the walk. You got to inspire people with your action. You can't just say it. You got to do it.
Man, Michael, you lead by example, and you've inspired me. Just your thought process and how you lead. I think it's a breath of fresh air, right? I think you do, and I think it's a term for it, right? Leading by walking around, and it's inspiring to hear somebody actually do that and breathe that.
But it's not just walking around. Some people, when they walk around, will go, hey, you did that. You didn't pull that curtain all the way, or hey, you didn't do that, or what about this? And instead I go, wouldn't it be better if you thought about trying this? It'll make the resident feel better. And when you speak like that, when you speak respectfully to your staff, because again, as I said earlier, we need everybody who's here. And in 2023, we're lucky if we can get all the staff we need. You need to treat the staff like they're valuable, mostly because they are valuable. Yes. And we need them. And when they feel they're treated with respect, that's what you'll get back.
Well, Michael, I'd like to thank you for coming on to Sound Leadership with DJ. Your insights was invaluable. And I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in to Sound Leadership with DJ. We hope you gained valuable insights and inspiration from our conversation with Michael. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to all of our social media pages. You can follow us on YouTube and at LinkedIn on Sound Leadership with DJ. You can follow me personally at Your Healthcare Consultant on Instagram and TikTok. And Michael, is there a way that people can get in contact with you or reach out to you? I know you run that administrators group. If someone has a question about mentorship or, just how do I be as great as Michael, how should they reach out to you?
Well, first of all, be as great as Michael. Be like the people I admire more than you're like me. There are at least 30 people in the field I think are awesome examples, and I follow all of them. And if you want, I'll give you a list. You should interview some of them because I learned from each and every one of them. But if you go onto LinkedIn, my personal email is there. I frequently post it on the Administrators Forum. I can be reached through the American College, although I'm no longer the mentor chair. I decided 5 years was enough, and I'm running a special focus facility. It's hard to be pulled in all those directions. Yeah. I got to get this place out of trouble, and we're on the verge of doing that. When I walked in, they were just at the start of that journey. So I am very easily findable. I'm sure I can be Googled too, although that sounds dirty. So there are many ways to find me. But I do want to emphasize, join your professional organizations, whether it's Leading Age, whether it's AHCA, whether it's the American College, which is the only national association for administrators. You will learn from your peers. And the American College has put me in amazing places. It put me in a surveyors conference, which, boy, was that scary, 20 of us and 400 of them. But I learned a lot from hearing what they were thinking. It put me in the HCA Survey and Regulatory Committee, where I'm hanging out with people who manage 200-300 buildings, and they let me play in their sandbox.
Wow.
Some of the things you can learn by being involved in doing. You can't just do your building. You need to get out there in our professional community, become active, and you will learn so much and develop such great relationships with so many knowledgeable, smart, and incredibly kind leaders.
Oh. Well, Michael, I thank you again. And once again, to our viewers, I thank you for tuning in to Sound Leadership with DJ. If you loved this video, please like, share, and subscribe, as I stated earlier. And join us soon for another great episode of Sound Leadership with DJ.